Sicily, an island bathed in sunshine, steeped in history, and scarred by the presence of the mafia. This beautiful Mediterranean island, with its rich cultural heritage and stunning landscapes, has a darker side that has shaped its history for centuries. The mafia's origins are shrouded in the mists of time. The exact beginnings of this secretive and powerful organization are difficult to pinpoint, but its influence has been felt throughout Sicily for generations. Some historians trace their beginnings back to medieval secret societies. These early groups, often formed for mutual protection and support, laid the groundwork for what would become the mafia. They operated in the shadows, bound by codes of secrecy and loyalty. Others point to the tumultuous 19th century. This period was marked by social upheaval and economic hardship, creating a fertile environment for the mafia to take root. Sicily was a land of contrasts, with great wealth and deep poverty existing side by side. This was a time when Sicily was ruled by absentee landlords and plagued by banditry. The rural population, struggling to survive, found themselves at the mercy of both the landowners and the bandits who roamed the countryside. Amidst this chaos, a need for protection arose. The local population, desperate for security and stability, turned to those who could offer them a semblance of order. This need for protection and justice in a lawless land was the perfect breeding ground for the mafia. Enterprising individuals, often with a reputation for ruthlessness, stepped in to fill the void. These men, who would become the first mafiosi, were seen as protectors and enforcers. They offered their services to those in need, but their protection came at a price. They offered their services as enforcers, mediators, and protectors. In a society where the official legal system was often ineffective or corrupt, the mafia provided an alternative form of justice. They settled disputes, enforced contracts, and maintained order through their own brand of law. These men, bound by oaths of secrecy and loyalty, became the first mafiosi. Their power and influence grew as they established themselves as the ultimate authority in their communities. They operated in the shadows, their true identities known only to a select few. Their code of silence, known as omerta, ensured their survival. This unwritten rule demanded absolute loyalty and discretion from all members. Breaking this code was considered the ultimate betrayal and was met with severe consequences. This code demanded absolute loyalty and discretion. The mafiosi were bound to each other by a sense of honor and duty, and their loyalty to the organization was paramount. This bond of loyalty was what allowed the mafia to thrive and expand its influence. Betrayal was met with swift and brutal retribution. The mafia's reputation for ruthlessness ensured that few dared to cross them. Those who did were dealt with harshly, serving as a warning to others. The mafia's roots were firmly planted in the fertile ground of Sicily's turbulent past. Over time, they grew and evolved, becoming a powerful and enduring force in Sicilian society. Their influence extended beyond the island, reaching into the highest levels of politics and business. The seeds of the mafia, sown in the rich soil of Sicily's history, have left an indelible mark on the island and its people. In the early days, the mafia often presented itself as a protector of the weak. They would resolve disputes, collect debts, and even mete out justice when the legal system failed. This image of the mafia as a necessary evil was carefully cultivated. It allowed them to operate with a degree of impunity. However, this facade of respectability hid a darker truth. The mafia's methods were often brutal, and their motives were far from altruistic. They extorted money from businesses, intimidated rivals, and used violence to maintain their grip on power. The mafia's influence permeated every aspect of Sicilian life. From the citrus groves to the bustling markets, their presence was felt. They infiltrated local government, the police, and even the church. Their power seemed absolute, their reach inescapable. The late 19th century saw a wave of Italian immigration to the United States. Thousands of Italians, driven by economic hardship and political instability, left their homeland in search of a better life. They arrived at Ellis Island, the gateway to America, with dreams of prosperity and freedom. Among these hopeful newcomers were members of the Sicilian Mafia. These individuals brought with them not only their hopes and dreams, but also the traditions and practices of their secretive criminal organization. The Mafia, or Cosa Nostra, had deep roots in Sicily, where it had thrived for centuries. They were drawn by the promise of a new life and new opportunities. America represented a land of endless possibilities, where hard work and determination could lead to success. For many, it was a chance to escape the poverty and oppression of their homeland. America, with its burgeoning cities and lax law enforcement, proved to be fertile ground for the mafia to take root. The rapid growth of urban centers like New York, Chicago, and New Orleans created an environment where organized crime could flourish. The lack of a strong police presence and the corruption within law enforcement made it easier for the mafia to establish itself. The mafia quickly established themselves in their new homeland. They formed tight-knit communities within the larger Italian-American population, often centered around neighborhoods known as Little Italies. These enclaves provided a sense of familiarity and security for the immigrants, but they also became the breeding grounds for criminal activity. They set up shop in Little Italies across the country. From New York to San Francisco, these neighborhoods became the hubs of mafia operations. The mafia's influence extended beyond the Italian-American community as they began to infiltrate various sectors of society. They preyed on their fellow immigrants, offering protection and exploiting their vulnerabilities. Many newly arrived Italians found themselves at the mercy of the mafia, who offered protection in exchange for money. This protection racket became one of the mafia's primary sources of income. The mafia's traditional activities, such as extortion and loan sharking, flourished in America's urban underworld. They used intimidation and violence to maintain control over their territories and to ensure that their victims paid up. The mafia's reputation for ruthlessness and efficiency helped them to expand their operations. They soon discovered new avenues for profit. As they became more entrenched in American society, the mafia began to diversify their criminal enterprises. They moved into areas such as gambling, prostitution, and drug trafficking, always looking for new ways to make money. The burgeoning trade in illegal alcohol during the Prohibition era proved particularly lucrative. The nationwide ban on the sale and distribution of alcohol created a massive black market, and the mafia was quick to capitalize on it. They established speakeasies and smuggling operations, making millions of dollars in the process. The mafia's American chapter was about to enter its golden age. The combination of their traditional criminal activities and the new opportunities presented by Prohibition allowed them to amass unprecedented wealth and power. The mafia's influence would continue to grow, shaping the landscape of organized crime in America for decades to come. Prohibition in the 1920s was a gift to the mafia. The 18th Amendment, which banned the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcoholic beverages, was intended to curb the social problems associated with drinking. Instead, it created a lucrative black market for alcohol, and the mafia was quick to seize the opportunity. The ban on alcohol created a massive demand for illegal booze. Speakeasies, secret bars where people could drink in defiance of the law, sprang up in cities across the country. These establishments needed a steady supply of alcohol, and the mafia was more than willing to provide it. The mafia, with their established networks and ruthless efficiency, were perfectly positioned to exploit this opportunity. They had the connections to smuggle alcohol from Canada, the Caribbean, and even Europe. They also had the muscle to protect their shipments and eliminate any competition. They smuggled vast quantities of liquor into the country, amassing huge fortunes in the process. Rum running, the act of smuggling alcohol by sea, became a common practice. Bootleggers, those who transported and sold illegal alcohol, became household names. The mafia's wealth and influence grew exponentially during this period. They flaunted their newfound riches with luxury cars, extravagant parties, and opulent homes. Their lavish lifestyle was a stark contrast to the economic hardships faced by many Americans during the Great Depression. They invested their ill-gotten gains in legitimate businesses, infiltrating unions, and corrupting politicians. By laundering their money through legal enterprises, they were able to further expand their criminal empire. They gained control over industries such as construction, shipping, and entertainment. They became a force to be reckoned with, their tentacles reaching into every level of American society. Their influence extended beyond the criminal underworld, affecting politics, business, and even law enforcement. They used bribery, intimidation, and violence to maintain their power. This newfound power led to fierce competition between rival mafia factions. The struggle for control of the lucrative bootlegging operations resulted in violent gang wars. These conflicts were often played out in the streets, with shootouts and bombings becoming a common occurrence. The streets of New York and other major cities ran red with the blood of gangsters vying for control of the lucrative underworld. law enforcement struggled to keep up with the escalating violence, and many officers were either bribed or intimidated into turning a blind eye. A new breed of mobster, more ruthless and ambitious than their predecessors, was emerging. These young gangsters were willing to do whatever it took to rise to the top, including betraying their own allies. Their actions would shape the future of organized crime in America for decades to come.